Hi, welcome to this week's episode. We are talking about burnout.
We are talking about burnout.
Whilst being in the middle of burnout.
And drinking nice cups of lemon and ginger tea, but you're having some caffeine.
I've gone double caffeine today.
Because it's the morning. So we wanted this is a small minisode, like a 15-minute episode, which means that I'm going to have to look at my watch so we can work out what the time is. And we wanted to talk about how to tell when you're burnt out, although I think when you're in the midst of it, it's not hard to know that you're burnt out, and
I think it still can be difficult.
Really?
Yeah, because you can get to a point where you're just running on autopilot.
Yeah, that is true.
And I think perhaps that's why you are now on the other side of burnout.
So I do burnout, and then it's not until I'm crashed and burnt that I'm like,
shit, cinder.
I was burning out. You're right. I don't recognise the upward trend of the burnout. It's just when I'm like incapacitated in bed that I'm like, oh, I'm broken.
You're broken. Because to start off with, we were going to talk about avoiding the signs of burnout, but we both realised that perhaps we're not the best at, although I think we are, but I think we're quite good at ignoring. I personally am good at ignoring burnout because, like you, I feel like I just need to carry on going.
And, we're only in our 30s. We can't expect to know everything. So it's part of the process, isn't it, of learning about yourself and what you can cope with and what you can't cope with. So it's fine if we don't always recognise it, because I think that everybody's in this boat at some point or another.
Yeah, and I think, unfortunately, there's quite a big emphasis at the moment on being the person who knows how to avoid burnout, but like you say, you can't necessarily do that. And I think it is quite seasonal. When you're in the midst
of the working.
When you're in the middle of the working, when it's seasonal. I mean, I know personally at the moment, I'm just on the other end of a cold, and most people that I know, it's that time of year when there's germs. So maybe...
Goddamn germs.
I know.
And there's some Australian flu coming, apparently, like an epidemic. So lock the doors, batten down the hatches, and don't see anybody for the next 6 months. That's my advice. To working. Keep away from the Australian flu. But yeah.
It's a fine balance, and I think it's taking lots of factors into account, because, for example, if you're really busy at the moment, which I know you are,
yes,
that kind of takes precedent, doesn't it? That's the most important thing. So perhaps, although it shouldn't, your health has maybe taken a back seat, and perhaps you've kind of thought that it was this cold that's just going around that you maybe have had, but maybe it's more than that.
Oh no, I know it's not a cold, because I know that when I reach the crash and burn, I wake up with a really sore throat. Mm-hmm. It's always the same symptoms. So I always wake up with a sore throat, and then I'm like, oh, it's coming. Mm-hmm. But I'm not ill enough to stop. It's not like I'm ill enough to just cancel all my clients go, I can't see any of you because it's just a sore throat. But I know that that's the beginning of it.
But that should be your sign to know that this is reoccurring.
Yes.
And that if you don't look after yourself, it's going to be far worse. But in the same breath, I'm the same. I know that if I can sit in bed and still do emails, even though I'm feeling a bit crappy, to me, I feel like that's the time I should be using to do that. Whereas somebody who is perhaps like a wellbeing coach or somebody into nutrition would definitely say, come on now, you need to have a day off. You need to have a duvet day.
Yeah.
But that would be really interesting to maybe...
I was going to say, if you're listening to this and you are a wellbeing coach, then we'd love to hear from you. And maybe we could do a longer 30-minute episode where you give us and everybody else hints and tips on burnout. Yeah. I think it's also part of that idea of having it all. Mm-hmm. Because I'm a mum and I've got the business and I've got to do everything, and you've got your business and the house and another job, and it's like trying to fit all that stuff in.
It's the balance, right?
It's the balance, of just working enough so that it's working, so that you're at your highest peak, but not just disregarding everything and just going at it hell for leather for too long.
Yeah, and I know I had got into a really good routine of going to yoga twice a week and giving myself time in between the jobs. Yeah. But because it's my big weekend event coming up, that's all taken a back seat. And since then, things have just started to go downhill. And I've just been, once you get out of that routine of looking after yourself doing some exercise and even like prepping food, it sounds silly, but I'm just like, right, I've got some healthy meals prepared. I know that I'm looking after myself. But I haven't done that for a couple of weeks. And it's just been
what have you been eating? Just toast?
Not more toast than necessary, definitely. But it's it's part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I haven't done any exercise for ages, which I know is a really big thing, and I want to do exercise, but it's building space into exercise. But one of the things we were talking about with burnout is actually recognizing when things are going well and stopping and enjoying them, rather than constantly be pushing for the next thing, for the next kind of goal. I mean, it's great to have goals, but sometimes what can happen is you create a goal, whether that be income, whether that be amount of clients, whether that be the amount of hours that you work, the amount of podcasts, that whatever that goal is, and then as soon as you reach that goal, your brain's ticking and thinking about, okay, how can I stretch that goal and take that one step further? And actually, you're not allowing yourself to enjoy reaching that initial stage, and maybe just sitting in that for a couple of months and being comfortable.
Yeah,
and
being
like,
in that
working.
moment and enjoying it. Otherwise, what's the point in doing it?
Yeah.
Like you say.
And then like, oh God, so I've got to like earn more money. I've got to have more clients. And I've got this next goal that I've got to attain. And then you're constantly stretching yourself, which is great because stretching means growing. But also, we're only human, and elastic breaks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're quite fragile as human beings.
And once you get to that point, physically it has a negative impact, and mentally it has a negative impact, which obviously is all part of that burnout. And it's then trying to get both of those back to a level, which that never seems to happen at the same time. So within that burnout, you might be feeling physically better, but mentally you're still quite low.
Yeah.
So it's trying to work out, I mean, obviously avoiding it, like we're saying, isn't necessarily, doable, but how then can you boost one and boost the other, or which to you do you find you get out of more easily, like physical burnout or mental burnout?
What do I get out of?
Which do you find easier to move through and come out the other
physical
side?
Burnout is fine because then I can just lay down, but I find mental burnout when you're thinking, because even if you're laying down, you're like thinking, and then you go to bed and you're thinking,
and you can't sleep,
and then you wake up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. and you're like thinking, like it's something you carry around with you all the time, isn't it? And what I found really interesting is I went to the acupuncturist because I was like, oh God, I've got the sore throat, I'm starting to feel bad, I'm going to book an appointment with the acupuncturist. He really helps. And he said to me, you're really stressed. And I thought, am I? I didn't even realise. And I thought, yeah, shit. One shoulder is so tense and it's all come up the side of my neck. I was like, oh, I am stressed. And then he was telling me off. Why didn't you tell me that you're stressed? I was like, because I didn't even know it. I didn't even realise that I was. I was just working. So sometimes it takes somebody else to stop you and say,
absolutely,
hang on a minute. Like, so maybe part of being able to deal with burnout or recognise it is having a group of people around you who can say, stop it, or who can give you a bit of space to breathe, or I don't know, like I've just cancelled a thing that I'm doing this evening, and a colleague sent me a lovely email saying, just lie on the couch, you need to get better, we need you. And that just made me think, oh God.
And that isn't really important to check in with those people, because when you're being hard on yourself, they often can see a completely different perspective, right?
Yeah.
So that's exactly what you needed to hear. And you probably forgot that you had that because they're always there. But
yeah, I thought they'd go, oh, bloody hell, she's not going to come and we're going to have to do it ourselves and blah, 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 blah. And people aren't like that, are they? When you say, hang on a minute, I just need to stop, generally people go, okay, that's fine.
How can we help?
How can we help?
And so then maybe it's asking for help.
But we know all this stuff, don't
we? Do, but maybe...
we know this stuff. We know that we need to ask for help.
Because so that's it. So you're in it, and actually asking for help is probably the only way you can get yourself out of it.
Yes.
So like that text message today has given you almost permission to just kind of shed that extra responsibility. Yeah. But unless you'd have said that, you wouldn't have known. And going to the acupuncturist has obviously... that's their perspective, but then that's helped you again to take that physical step as well as that mental step. Yeah. So maybe it's asking for help, which I'm terrible at.
Yeah, let's ask for help more.
And maybe you journal more than me.
I was going to say like a diary.
Keeping a journal, and maybe just having almost like a page that's easy to get to, that you can record your signs of going into burnout, what you feel like when you're there, and tips that because it is really personal. Like your tips for being in and getting out of burnout are probably different than mine. Yeah, but if we can record that when we're in it, then when we get back to this point, which is inevitable because things are cyclical, then we can refer back to that and go, okay, well, I know that this happened, but I might not remember what I did that time to get out of it. But if it's there, then that's an additional prompt.
You can look back. The funny thing is that I should recognise is that I haven't written in my journal for a month. So I went and wrote in it last night and I was like, shit, it's been a whole month.
Yeah.
So that's a sign. Yeah. I'm so busy and I really enjoy taking the time out to just write kind of 3 pages of something, whether that's setting goals or kind of writing about what I'm grateful for. But I haven't done that for ages because I'm so busy. I haven't got time to be grateful for anything.
After our last episode with Mary, and speaking to you, I did a couple of days of journaling, and it was about having the time in the morning to sit and do that and make that a priority before I went off to do other things. And I did find that helped. Yeah. So I'll be re-listening to the last...
the glorification of busy. With Mary, which is great. And it all ties in with this, isn't it? Because we're busy. We're telling everybody that we're busy. We're doing things. I'm trying to say that I'm not busy, but I really am busy.
But the thing is, everybody is busy in different ways, and we only have a finite amount of hours, but everybody has the same amount of hours.
But then I went and did a crazy thing. So she spoke about the Pomodoro technique, which I kind of knew, which was the 20 minutes.
Which I have tried to do that. I had an app on my phone.
It's great.
Yeah.
Because it means that you can stick to something. But then what I did was, I thought, are you going to let the cat in?
I'm just letting the cat in.
Just let the cat in. Come on, cat.
Are you coming in?
There's the cat. What I did was, in the 5 minutes between the 25 minutes, I got on the exercise bike. So I did 25 minutes of work, and then I thought, right, this is my 5 minutes break. I'm going to get on the exercise bike. So I got on the exercise bike and cycled frantically for 5 minutes, and sat down at my desk and did 25 minutes. And then maybe I missed the point of the relax.
But how did you feel?
I felt good because I was using my exercise bike.
Yeah.
But maybe I should have used that 5 minutes to just walk around my garden and smell the roses or something.
Maybe.
Rather than...
But you can perhaps try that next time and see.
Rather than just going crazy on the exercise bike. Ah! The cat is doing some funny things. That is good. So yeah. So, okay, have we talked about...
So I think we've covered most areas. I think it's very personal. Sometimes it's hard to know when you are burnt out. Yeah. And it isn't until you're deep in the shit that you are aware.
Shit it.
And it's finding ways that suit you and maybe recording them.
Yep.
And asking for help.
Yeah, and even just talking about it, even just talking to you, or if you've got a coach and you just ring them up and you say, I just burnt out, or I need to talk about this, that just helps loads, doesn't it? So, thank you very much for listening to us talking about burnout.
We'd love to hear your experiences, so please email us, and we'll be writing about it as well on the blog, and we'll get more people involved if they want to come on and talk about it on a longer episode.
Please share your tips for recognising burnout and dealing with it. That would be fantastic.
Because obviously the more we talk about it, the better.
And so the next minisode that's going to be in a month's time, we're going to be talking about bringing the fun back into life and your business. So we hope that you enjoyed this, and we'll catch up with you in 2 weeks' time when we have a fuller episode where we talk to a fabulous creative women in business.
Yep. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.